going to be treated like consultants this week. So you are here thanks to our sponsors, the State Historical Fund and the Poudre National Heritage Area. And you're going to be looking at a nationally significant area.
They'll have stuff, your teachers that'll be with you in every group as well. They're here to...
Yeah.
I'm just excited to learn about the rivers and incorporate the environment into the historic preservation.
Well, this is my first youth summit, so I'm interested to see what the program has to offer and where it can take me in my future.
I'm excited. This is my second year doing it, and I'm just excited to have a great experience.
Is how you can get the word about the Poudre Heritage Area out to the community, to your network, to your friends, to your family.
Be the voice of a community.
Being the voice of a community, that's great.
Raise your hands. You've all been in the Poudre River National Heritage Area. You're sitting in it right now. You're in it. So all of you, raise your hands. Come on, get them up. There. And you can go back to your homes and tell them, I went to a National Heritage Area and I spent the whole week there.
It is still an important part of Greeley's water supply.
Right now we're looking around the Fort Collins Museum of Discovery at the different exhibits and everything.
It's important to understand that history and science are essentially the same thing, and if they don't work in coalition, then it will be very hard to sustain our future.
They have all this like exciting futuristic musical stuff, and then they also have these artifacts from like 1920s.
This museum's pretty cool, to be honest. Like, I really haven't seen a whole lot of hands-on stuff on this, like in this museum, like all these musical instruments, or even something as simple as that mirror wall over there where you just blow a fan on a wall of mirrors and they just move. It's really interesting, and I think it's really appealing to the younger generation of kids that are coming to the museums nowadays.
We're about to go to the river, and we're going to learn about, why water is important, and how we're going to need it and be able to preserve it for the future.
So in this exhibit, we've been asked to go around and look at the artifacts, and by just looking at them to pick our 3 favorites, and then to go back and read in depth about them and see how that changes our perspective of what we've seen.
We love Museum of Discovery!
What I'd like to do is increase your visual literacy, teach you a little bit about what makes a good image and what you should look for in your iPhones when you're shooting or when you're shooting with a camera. Everybody shoots video these days. Everybody shoots pictures these days. But to take it to the level of an art, you need just a little bit more sophistication.
I'd say preservation is important to give the next generation an opportunity to see some of the stuff. Like, if we didn't preserve the Poudre River with the Water Conservation Act, it would all be taken up by farmers or whatnot.
Youth Summit really helps give the perspective of teenagers and middle schoolers onto historic preservation, which is something that you don't usually find. It's not a common topic in many high schools or middle schools throughout the U.S., but what we're doing here is really significant because getting our perspectives on how to help preserve and protect these amazing historic sites and bring awareness to many of the youth around the U.S. is incredibly important.
What we're doing today is we're helping out at the Poudre Learning Center, and they had a flood from Father's Day to Mother's Day, or Mother's Day to Father's Day, and that caused the lake to rise up So we're helping them pick all of the overgrown weeds.
We're moving the sandbags over to the other area so that we can stop the water.
The Parents' Day flood, as it's called, basically destroyed any work they did. So there's all these weeds growing and choking out the beautiful flowers. So we're fixing that.
I'm gonna move it closer so you guys can have that.
We love the Heritage Area! Woo!
Good job.
Well, we're really honored to be with the Mayor of Windsor this morning and the Associate Planner.
We're celebrating its 125-year anniversary, so we do have a rich history. We're not a community that just got our dot on the map just a couple of decades ago. Water is the single most mismanaged resource in the entire state. We do not have a water shortage, we have a water storage shortage.
From that standpoint, you can tell a lot about the original location of a structure and what used to be around the structure. In this case, a lot of these homes date back to almost the same age as the church itself.
So right now we're surveying the church and we're looking for like artifacts that tell us when it was built or maybe like new additions that they made onto the church. We can tell by the stone's different or the outside's different or the windows are different.
And one of the things I love about some of the churches here in town is you'll notice the stained glass. All right, so all that stained glass, it's all leaded glass. All right, it's not glass that you're going to find produced today.
Lightning, droughts, hailstorms, blizzards, locusts and grasshoppers, coyotes and rattles. That was the life of the dry land farmer and still is.
We just learned about irrigation and flood irrigating techniques for farming, and we learned that you shouldn't overwater your plants because it ruins the root system. So I thought it was really interesting. The guy told us about how he only waters once a week to prevent flooding and keep the nutrients in the plants.
I'm at the White Plum Farm, and I'm trying to come up with ideas of how we could repurpose some of the stuff here, or just find ways to attract more people to it or get funding for it.
We should make signs or plaques put next to each of the trees explaining like how old it is and what kind of tree it is.
A summer camp for kids.
My name is Josh from the City Greeley Forestry Division, and we're just hoping to get a message across to the students that about the importance of, first of all, taking care of your trees and the historic relevance of the trees at this location.
Welcome to the Crest Cinema and Lounge, but it was a real preservation challenge. The plaster repair was a lot of work. Everything in the building really needed fixed. A great old place. Had a pretty good crew in here, scaffolding everywhere. We worked weeks and weeks. It was backbreaking labor. We were trying to go as fast as we could because we had a timeline. We worked like slaves.
How there was a labor shortage for the sugar beet fields, and also from between 1950 and 1920, there was 45 sugar beet farms, and then it increased to 100 sugar beet farms in the U.S., so that was really interesting.
One of the key themes that I like to speak with students about is the concept that man changes the environment, and in turn the environment changes man. and how do we use our resources wisely to preserve the best of our state, its historical, its cultural, its recreational, and its natural resources for.
How do you preserve it? How do you interpret it in the future? And then also an archival donation. How do you make things that are, information that's on paper, how do you make that accessible to the public?
I'd like your ideas about how to use this space to make it more effective, including to help people understand what they're coming to when they come in the door.
One of our ideas is to get community members to do murals on the walls. So like high schoolers and like artists who have like shops or are currently here at the time.
Use one of those felt boards where you can stick felt pieces to the wall and have a river.
They're places that were preserved because they are remarkable, either for their historic value, their cultural value, or their landscape value. And most of the ones that you pick have landscape features.
Something that actually matters.
Us youth like color, and we'll look at something that has color.
Put out a link or something. Unlikely that we're gonna click it and go through the effort of going to find
Easy or convenient?
both.
The incentives like service hours and the learning, and to meet new people, like people with influence, people that are important.
Even though it is like a small difference because you're just one person, but it still can make like a big difference. Like if you think about it, like, wow, I really did make a change.
Like a lot of my friends at school, they tend to be very intimidated by people in a position of power, people in office. So what if we could get those people in office to go and work and volunteer out in these national parks, and we advertise that, go and do volunteer work with your representative. Way to conserve other things like energy, take the stairs.
Tomorrow, just like today, we're not coming back. Make sure you have layers, hats, sunglasses, water bottles, and your meal card.
Importance.
Remembering.
Leadership. The future.
Stories.
Inspiration. Respect. Next generation.
We are at the waterworks in Fort Collins, Colorado, and we learned a lot about how the history of the Poudre River and how it's been used to like pump into Fort Collins, and it was used to like purify the water.
And we were shown the original waterwork area for Fort Collins, and there are different buildings we went through built at different times to help keep the amount of water they need going through. And we got the opportunity to see a part of the original pipe that went all the way down into downtown Fort Collins, and that was really interesting because it gave you some insight on what exactly the pipe looked like, because they've been talking about the pipe a lot.
It's always been owned by Fort Collins. It continues to be, even though we are actually in Larimer County and not in the city of Fort Collins. So we're kind of a part of the city that's not connected to the city.
Fort Collins, especially into the downtown area. You are in a very, very historic area of Fort Collins, and it's very sought out through tourism.
Karen and I work together on a regular basis, helping to preserve the city and its historic buildings and historic districts.
Summit.
Okay.
And we want to work to engage youth in historic preservation and historic places. So we wanted to ask you a few different questions about that can help us better understand what it's like to operate a business here in Fort Collins.
We're trying to shine some light on these historic buildings, and so during construction, what are some of the creative ways that you use to draw in business?
What is the most common question visitors ask when they shop here?
Being located in this historic district helps or hinders your business at all?
The Downtown Business Association of Fort Collins to brainstorm activities and events for them to use to engage our age group.
It was the Ram Jam, and it is a welcome back for the college students when they get back to school and just to come downtown, have a good time, and get back into the flow of things here.
Our idea is called Dessert Day, and it'll be like a day in Fort Collins where the local businesses who sell desserts, like the chocolate shop we just went to and the cupcake place, they can showcase their products.
We're brainstorming tourism idea. So we came up with the idea for a book fair for young adults because there's a lot of people that don't read. So we decided that book fair would be a good activity to get people more aware about books and also have more fun in their community.
Sell you meals created for your dog. You can buy some cheap toys just around and get frisbees with logos to advertise.
Right now we are taking a downtown tour of Old Town Fort Collins, and so far we've seen the hotel, which was built in 1877 because the railroads came through, and then we saw how many times it was renovated, and we've also been down and saw all the banks on these corners behind me, and we looked at how the buildings in between on the streets are smaller and also have houses above them.
Where there's a group of farmers, there's a group of engineers, and there's a group of locals, and it's in a way of determining where pipes should be put, whether they should be coming from the mountains to deliver water to Fort Collins or whether they should be going to the farm and be electrically pumped to the farm.
So right now we're just learning about this area in Fort Collins and its past, and also about the future that's happening and how it's changing and the issues that are coming with that, but also the benefits that are coming with that. Some of these people are being driven out because though they've lived here for a long time, the rise in more expensive buildings is raising taxes, and they soon won't be able to pay that, so they'll be driven out. They also won't want these homeless people that live around here to be here, so they'll be kicking the homeless people out, and where are they going to go?
Talking about how important this is historically, but also combining that with the growth of the city.
And we are going to have a mock commission.
Creates a false sense of historical development because if again you look at the picture, it doesn't feel like it belongs in the neighborhood.
Some of the proposed changes is that they're going to add a new addition to the back.
Both the historic integrity of the property itself as well as the character of the surrounding neighborhood. It also defies number 6 on the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation.
And I think that they mentioned that an elevator is going to be put in and it is for functional use.
as long as the new addition matches the size and scale, but can be differentiated from the historical buildings, then it complies with standards 9 and 10 as well.
The roof is one of the most important parts to a bungalow, and it's completely changed here, so
there are no nays, so the motion has been passed.
And that's an opportunity for the board members to justify why they're denying it or why they're approving it.
The function of the addition is important to residents.
The application is denied.
Thank you, Fort Collins. Preservation rocks.
Here is people can visit our website. They can find parks in their area. It's location specific. And then once you've found your park, you can go visit and learn about specific events that are in the area. But also, there's that second tab, Share Your Park. Okay, what do you think they mean by Share Your Park?
To be able to get to national parks is transportation. Like gas is getting more expensive, so maybe for like a limited time, like there could be like bus services that go to national parks, like partnering with like another sponsorship or partnering with RTD to make that happen.
Okay, so for the social media, we could do like partner with Google and do maybe like a Doodle for a Google contest for the national park.
I will be taking these ideas. I'm on the youth leadership team for the Centennial. So I will take these ideas to the National Park Service higher ups, okay? And so we'll share these ideas, and this is fantastic. All of these ideas are perfect. This is what we're looking for. And I wish that you could stay here forever so I can just like get all these ideas from your brains. But thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here with you. Really appreciate it.
Hashtag find your park.
Shit out to see like who's gonna do what part of it and then how you're gonna.
So we can be able to change it and make it better to be able to last a longer amount of time than what it has already lasted right now.
And I know that the Colorado Historical Society should hold an amateur film festival. The theme, What Colorado's Water Means to You. Our filmmakers will be encouraged to watch The Great Divide, not only to advertise it, but also to help pick some aspect of the documentary to serve as that filmmaker's inspiration.
Often the first impression of a sign or a logo will determine if we want to go to this site or if we're going to turn and run away and refuse to go there. So some of the sites that we visited this week seem directed more towards the younger kids. And in order to attract, the older teens, I think they need to appear more sophisticated and treat us more like adults, but still definitely keep those amazing hands-on activities because those really make it fun. One way to do this is have visuals that directly address us. So instead of saying, 1.5 million people in the world do this, you could say, if you did this, how could you make a difference?
And one way to get teens involved, because all teams are really, really competitive, is we need to get some kind of competition going, like a photography competition, like a selfie competition or a geocaching competition. That's really going to get the kids our age involved and engaged.
So a really good way for these sites to be engaging to our age group is to actually get us involved. We don't really like being talked at, we like hands-on activities. Like I know we really enjoy getting to use the hose and the shovels at the White Plum Farm and actually irrigate the land. So get us to do the work. That's a good way to get us engaged.
As you know, technology is something a big part of today, and here are a couple of ideas that would catch my self-attention and others. So YouTube, as you've heard, is just a huge thing. So adding a YouTube ad like even the simple ones that we've seen for Find Your Parks, that would be good, and it would be a good way to spread the word. And then you've also heard a lot of apps, and an idea I had for that was an app where you can track how many parks you've been to. You could have badges and missions for how many, goals.
It could be a bus tour like the Preserve America Youth Summit did. We went all around different museums and sites. Or it could even be a bike tour because people love biking in Colorado.
Since there's already a pre-existing bike or walking path along the Cache the Poudre Heritage Area and River, we can use that as a trail to provide bikers a way to get from each place. Who exactly can go on this tour? Since there are bikes and buses, families with kids can ride the buses, or really athletic people, if they're interested in biking, can ride their bike on this interactive tour. And during this tour, there would be many stops at different sites and museums, and at those sites and museums, there could be interactive activities such as a scavenger hunt, like we mentioned before, or a passport where you could earn stamps along the way at each site and museum you visited.
So we can get clothing for like Nike or some brands, and because we can put like preservation ads and stuff for preservation, and because a lot of people, when they're like sitting in the passenger seat of a car, they look at other people's shirts and see what they are, so I think that would be a good idea.
So some of the different ways that we can first get youth involved is putting fun before history. So don't market it as history is fun, but instead say you can learn from having fun. And some of the ways to do that is interactive games, just like the Discovery Museum did. They did a phenomenal job. We were entranced by some of the stuff there. You can incentivize groups for coming in larger groups so that people come with their friends, and then to help people with decisions and make teenagers make the decisions. Community service projects are great, but instead of having the adults lead the community service projects, have the high schoolers put the community service projects together.
Over the past week, we've been to a lot of really interesting historic places that have been preserved, and also a lot of really neat museums. We feel that a great way that we can share about these is through social media. One of our ideas revolves around challenges. Now, you may have heard of the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. A few of our challenges that we are suggesting are stand up for national parks or stand up for your national heritage area, where you post a fun video of yourself doing a handstands on social media.
Is that sometimes students just need an extra credit opportunity or like a community service project to get out there, and then by doing that they can get the exposure to these places and these committees, and then they'll want to keep coming back. So it's just getting them that intro.